Welcome back. Okay, let's dive into this explainer because today we're tackling a massive, totally invisible shift in human history. We're going to trace the whole evolution of cyber warfare. We're journeying from those mid 20th century days of massive room sized computers, the ones used for secret military code breaking, all the way to today's invisible, autonomous, AI driven threats that are, frankly, silently operating all around us right now. Unlike conventional kinetic warfare that happens out in the physical world, cyber conflict unfolds entirely in the intangible space of data, code, and communication protocols. It's a fascinating and, yeah, definitely sobering transformation. Here's our agenda for today. We'll start with the seeds of digital conflict, move into the era of cyber weapons, examine today's blurring battle lines, and finally look at AI and future threats. Section 1. Seeds of digital conflict. Long before the word cyberspace was even a glimmer in anyone's eye, the groundwork for digital warfare was already being planted by governments and military researchers. It's really a story about a loss of innocence in the digital world. Think back to the mid-20th century. Early electronic computing was born primarily for military code breaking during the Second World War. Then, moving into the Cold War, the whole focus shifted to information superiority and signals intelligence, right? Then, in the late 1960s, the U.S. Department of Defense funded ARPANET to create a communication network that could actually survive a nuclear attack. And back then, this was a relatively open, highly trusting environment among researchers. But by the 1980s, well, that innocence faded fast with the emergence of the very first viruses and worms. Now, sure, many of these were just created by hobbyists, just exploring self-replicating code for fun. But they served as the very first warning sirens. They proved that these trusting digital systems could, in fact, be manipulated. Which brings us perfectly to ARPANET's legacy. So the crucial point is this. The very design that made the modern global internet possible is exactly what makes it so incredibly vulnerable. ARPANET fostered unprecedented global innovation. Absolutely, it was a game changer. But by connecting everything together and then commercializing it, we inherently created a vast, vulnerable network of networks. Every new node, every new connection we added essentially just expanded the attack surface for anyone out there looking to cause disruption or steal information. Section 2. The era of cyber weapons. As personal computers started popping up everywhere and the internet became ubiquitous in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, those isolated hobbyist hacking incidents evolved. They turned into highly coordinated, strategically motivated operations, which brings us to a question that literally changed the world. Can code cause physical destruction? I want you to pause and really think about that for a second, because for decades, the answer seemed to be a definitive no way. Computers broke other computers, right? They messed up data, sure, but they didn't break the real world. But as we're about to see, the moment the answer to this question became yes, it marked a massive, permanent turning point in the history of conflict. Before we look at that exact turning point, let's clearly define what we're actually talking about here. A cyber weapon isn't just some pesky little virus that slows down your laptop. We're talking about specialized digital tools and techniques, highly sophisticated malware used explicitly to disrupt, damage, or destroy an adversary's systems or, and this is absolutely crucial, their physical infrastructure. These are lines of code written by expert programmers and software developers who are essentially acting as the architects of modern weaponry. And that brings us to the ultimate narrative climax of this era. The Stuxnet revelation in the late 2000s. Guys, Stuxnet was a watershed moment. It was a highly sophisticated, widely believed to be state-sponsored piece of malware. But it didn't just quietly exfiltrate data. Oh no. It was custom designed to target specific industrial control systems within Iran's nuclear program. It actually caused physical centrifuges to spin wildly out of control and completely destroy themselves. Stuxnet proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that cyber capabilities could cross over from the digital realm and inflict tangible, devastating harm on physical infrastructure. To really grasp how radical this shift is, let's compare it to traditional kinetic warfare. Traditional conflict operates in the physical realm. It uses physical weapons like bombs or missiles, and there's usually clear attribution. You can generally track a missile back to whoever fired it, right? But cyber warfare? It operates entirely in the intangible space of data and communication protocols. It literally uses code as weapons. And honestly, the trickiest part? Blurred attribution. A devastating cyber attack can route through dozens of countries, making it incredibly difficult to definitively prove who ordered the strike. It gives the attackers a massive degree of deniability. Section 3. Today's blurring battle lines. Fast forward to today, and cyber warfare has completely transcended those early niche exploits. It's become a foundational, integral component of modern statecraft and global competition. The lines between peace, espionage, sabotage, and overt military action, they are entirely blurred now. And this brilliantly illustrates a massive, multifaceted scale of state-level threats. We aren't just talking about hacking a single database anymore. State-sponsored operations now encompass massive disinformation campaigns designed to manipulate public opinion, which experts actually call cognitive warfare. Then you have persistent espionage, using advanced persistent threats to just lurk inside systems for months. There's the active sabotage of critical infrastructure, things like power grids and water treatment facilities. Add in the disruption of an adversary's military command systems and the systematic, large-scale theft of intellectual property to gain an economic edge. It is a continuous, multi-front war, and it's happening every single second of the day. But here's the kicker. It's not exclusively the domain of wealthy governments anymore. State actors naturally operate with meticulous planning, vast resources, and really clear strategic geopolitical objectives. However, because hacking tools and open-source intelligence have become so widely democratized, non-state actors have totally entered the fray. Terrorist organizations and organized criminal groups are now leveraging cybercrime, like those crippling ransomware attacks you hear about, simply for fundraising. They're using the internet for global propaganda, recruitment, and overt cyber terrorism. The barrier to entry for causing digital destruction is lower than it has ever been. Section 4. AI and Future Threats. Now, if the landscape we've covered so far seems daunting, while the ongoing integration of artificial intelligence represents a terrifyingly transformative development in this digital arms race, let's move to and see how this builds into an accelerating, potentially autonomous loop of conflict. First, AI provides incredible defensive capabilities through automated threat detection. It can process vast amounts of network traffic far faster than human operators ever could. But, as always, the sword cuts both ways. Adversaries are using AI to create intelligent malware. We're talking about highly adaptive code that actually learns from its environment to actively evade detection. Which brings us to the nightmare scenario: autonomous exploitation. We are looking at a future of self-propagating cyber weapons that can autonomously identify vulnerabilities, select their targets, and execute attacks with minimal or even zero human intervention. Oh, and AI is also powering natural language processing to craft hyper-realistic phishing emails, which makes social engineering harder to detect than ever before. Basically, the speed of conflict is simply outpacing human decision-making. So, how does this all connect directly to you in your daily life? Well, the democratization of these AI-driven cyber weapons is colliding head-on with our rapid adoption of 5G networks and the Internet of Things, or IoT. Every connected smart thermostat, every digital security camera, every 5G-enabled device in our homes and cities introduces a brand new vulnerability. This massive web of interconnected devices expands the attack surface drastically. It literally pulls the battlefield out of government servers and embeds it directly into the infrastructure of our everyday lives. Furthermore, the very definition of what constitutes a weapon is expanding right before our eyes. The new battleground isn't just about bringing down a power grid anymore. It's about the weaponization of data itself. Your personal data, fed through sophisticated algorithms, can be manipulated for highly targeted influence operations. The control, manipulation, and integrity of information, what you see online, the news you consume, the narratives that shape our society, that has become a critical, active front in information warfare. So where do we go from here? Our source material provides a really clear, neutral assessment of the current geopolitical failure, stating the absence of universally agreed-upon norms of behavior in cyberspace has contributed to the escalating threat. Right now, cyberspace operates largely without rules. It's kind of the Wild West. And because of the difficulty of attributing attacks, traditional military deterrence just doesn't work. To establish any sort of stable digital environment, there is a desperate need for new international laws, treaties, and governance, much like the non-proliferation treaties we saw during the nuclear age. Which leaves us with this final, lingering, and absolutely vital question to ponder. As the battlefield becomes fully digitized, how do we protect our societies and ethical boundaries from autonomous, invisible weapons? The historical trajectory we've traced today proves that our technological innovation is moving much, much faster than our ethical and legal frameworks. From the first seeds of code breaking to the modern era of AI-driven cyber warfare, it's a challenge that demands our continuous vigilance and digital literacy. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions and, most importantly, stay curious.